I walked away from applause, from rooms where people stood just because I entered, from a life the world kept calling successful. I didn't leave because it was ugly. I left because it was loud, and inside me something quiet was dying. If you're watching this late at night, maybe with the volume low so no one hears, I want you to know I see you. I know that feeling of sitting in a dark room, wondering if your best chapters are already behind you, wondering if anyone would notice if you stopped trying so hard to be strong. Culture keeps whispering that age is a closing door, that usefulness expires, that relevance belongs to the young. But what I've come to believe is the opposite. I believe calling often begins when the noise fades. I believe God speaks most clearly when the crowd is gone. And I believe people like you and me at this stage of life are not being put away. We are being set apart. Stay with me. In a moment, I'll share the part that changed everything for me, the part I almost missed because it didn't look impressive. Before we go any further, if you feel comfortable, write your age and where you're watching from in the comments. Not for numbers, for connection, so we can find each other in this quiet place. Because tonight isn't about fame. It isn't about regret. It's about something much gentler and much stronger. And it begins here. Some nights I sit alone in my kitchen long after the house has gone quiet. The clock sounds louder than it should. The refrigerator hums like it's trying to keep me company. And I'll wrap both hands around a warm cup just to feel something steady. It was in a moment like that, not dramatic, not holy sounding, just ordinary, that I finally told myself the truth. Everything in my life looked full. My days were busy. My name was known. My calendar was always crowded. And yet inside me there was an empty place I couldn't explain. I remember staring at the table and feeling tired in a way sleep doesn't fix. Not the kind of tiredness that comes from work, but the kind that comes from pretending. Smiling when you don't feel it, performing strength when you're quietly leaking, carrying a life that looks blessed while something essential is starving. I had all the proof the world requires that I was doing well, and none of it could reach that ache. At our age, many of us know this feeling. It's the ache that comes after the children are grown, after the roles change, after the applause fades, or the house empties. It's the question we don't always say out loud. Is this really all? I didn't walk toward Jesus because I was brave. I didn't come because I was disciplined. I came because I was empty, because I finally admitted that I couldn't fill myself. I sat there in that quiet kitchen and whispered words I hadn't planned. Not a speech, not a promise, just a tired truth. And what happened next still humbles me. For a long time, I thought those quiet, aching seasons meant something was wrong with me. I thought the slowing down meant I was being moved aside. I thought the regrets, the losses, the empty hours were proof that my best use had already passed. Maybe you felt that too, like you've been shelved, like your life is a book people have already finished reading. But what I slowly began to realize is this. What I was calling an ending, God was using as a beginning. What I felt as punishment was actually preparation. The silence wasn't abandonment, it was an invitation to finally hear the voice I had drowned out with busyness, identity, and noise. I want to speak gently to those of you who feel overlooked, to the widows, the widowers, the retirees who wonder if they still matter, the grandparents who feel like the background of other people's lives. I once believed the same lie. I believed that purpose belonged to the young, the visible, the productive, and I was wrong. There are 3 lies I believed about purpose, and 3 truths Jesus gently showed me, not in a sermon, not in a spotlight, but in small moments that change the way I see my life. Please don't skip this part, especially the second truth. That's where many people tell me something breaks open inside them, something soft, something hopeful, something they didn't know was still possible. Because if this season feels quiet, it may be because God is preparing you for something deeper than noise. Not long ago, I met a woman named Margaret. She was 72, a widow, the kind of person who sits near the back of the room and leaves before anyone notices. After a small gathering, she waited until most people were gone, then walked up to me holding her purse with both hands as if it were the only solid thing left in her life. We talked quietly, the way people do when they don't want to trouble anyone. She told me she still came to church, still prayed, still believed, but she felt invisible. She said, everyone is kind, but no one really sees me. Then her voice dropped and she said something that stayed with me. She said, I think my best years are over. I think God already used me. Now I'm just put away. There was no drama in her words, just a tired honesty, the kind many of us carry. We didn't do anything impressive. I didn't give her advice. I didn't correct her. I simply asked if I could pray with her, right there, two tired hearts standing in a quiet corner. And as we prayed, I watched something soften in her face. Not excitement, peace, the kind that comes when someone finally feels accompanied. Later, she told me, I don't feel put away anymore. I feel listened to. Her story reminded me of my own. God often whispers to the ones the world no longer shouts at. And if you've ever felt invisible, gently type yes in the comments. You are not alone. The first lie I carried for years was this, that usefulness ends with youth, that purpose belongs to the energetic, the visible, the ones still climbing. I didn't say it out loud, but I lived like it. I chased being seen. I measured my worth by reaction, by recognition, by whether my presence still stirred a room. And when those things began to quiet, fear crept in. A slow, polite fear. The kind that whispers, your time is over. But what Jesus began to show me was something entirely different. He showed me that calling doesn't shrink with age. It deepens with surrender. He didn't meet me when I was impressed. He met me when I stepped out of the noise, when I stopped performing my life and finally sat inside it. That's where I felt him most. Not in crowds, not in applause, but in the quiet places where nothing was left to prove. I realized my value had been built on being needed by people instead of being held by God. And those are not the same. Being needed keeps you busy. Being held makes you whole. When the stage emptied, when the roles softened, when the world's demands loosened their grip, something sacred finally had room to breathe. At our age, many of us are tempted to measure what we have left instead of what is being formed. But I've learned that some of the most meaningful work God does in a person happens when no one is watching, when the fruit is internal before it is ever external, when identity is healed before purpose is expressed. I want you to sit with that for a moment. Let it unsettle what the world taught you, because the second lie, the one that follows this, is the one that almost kept me from ever changing. I once spent time with a man named Robert. He was 68, a retired mechanic, the kind of man who had fixed things his whole life. Engines, lawnmowers, broken appliances, even neighbors' problems. Then illness came quietly and took his strength before he was ready to give it. When I met him, he told me, almost apologetically, I don't do much now. His hands still knew how to work, but his body no longer followed. And somewhere along the way, usefulness had become identity. He admitted that most mornings he woke up already tired of himself. He felt like a burden, like a chair that had been moved to the corner. His world had gotten very small. The garage was quiet. The phone didn't ring. Faith, he said, felt like something he had practiced when life made sense. But slowly something changed. Not dramatically, not all at once. He began opening his home once a week to pray with 2 other men. No fixing, no proof. Just presence. And that small room started to feel alive. He told me one day, I thought I lost my purpose, but maybe my purpose finally found me. The bitterness softened. The isolation loosened. He didn't get his old life back. He got peace instead, belonging instead, a different kind of usefulness that didn't drain him. Listening to him, I heard my own heart, the same fear, the same quiet relief. So I want to ask you, gently, where have you felt put out to pasture? The second lie was quieter, but heavier. It told me that fear was wisdom, that pulling back was maturity, that after everything I'd seen and lost, protecting myself was the same as trusting God. But Jesus began to show me that fear doesn't keep us safe. It keeps us small. I realized how many choices I was making just to avoid being hurt again, overlooked again, disappointed again. And slowly I saw the truth. Trust is not the absence of fear. It is the decision to place my weight somewhere else. When I stopped building my days around what I was afraid to lose, space opened for what God was trying to give. The third lie was the deepest one. It said my worth was tied to what I carried, what I produced, what people could point to and say, that's who he is. Walking away from what defined me felt like dying, but it was actually being found. Following Jesus did not escape. It was an exchange. I didn't trade a full life for an empty one. I traded noise for nearness, control for rest, applause for peace. And in that exchange, I discovered something steadier than identity. I discovered who was holding me. Many people miss this moment because it feels too small, too late, too simple. We expect God to come with thunder when he often comes with a whisper. We wait for the drama when the doorway is quiet. But this window does not stay open forever. Not because God is cruel, but because time is precious. If something in you is stirring right now, don't explain it away. Don't postpone it. There are seasons when the heart is soft, and those seasons are gifts. These are those seasons, and I don't want you to miss them. There's a woman I know named Elena. She's 79. When I first met her, she smiled kindly, but her eyes carried the weight of many goodbyes. She told me, "All I can really do now is pray," and she didn't say it with pride. She said it like an apology, as if prayer were what remained after everything else had been taken. But something happened over time. As her body slowed, her spirit widened. She began inviting a few neighbors into her small living room once a week. No programs, no plans, just tea, worn chairs, and prayer. People started bringing their worries, their grief, their children's names written on scraps of paper, and that little home began to feel like a refuge, not loud, not impressive, but alive. One afternoon, I watched her pray for someone, and there was such calm on her face. Not the calm of resignation, the calm of knowing she was exactly where she belonged. She later told me, almost laughing, "I thought prayer was all I had left. Now I see it's everything." Her life didn't get bigger, it got brighter. And standing there, I realized something gentle and powerful at the same time. What Jesus offered her is what he offered me. I used to think a turning point would feel like a spotlight, like a moment everyone could see, like thunder, certainty, some dramatic proof that I was finally doing the right thing. But mine didn't come that way. It came like a doorway, quiet, unannounced, small enough to ignore. I remember the night I stopped negotiating. I had spent so long telling Jesus what I would give, what I would change, what I would consider. And suddenly I was too tired to bargain. I wasn't trying to be spiritual. I was trying to breathe. I whispered, yes. Not yes to a plan, not yes to a role, just yes to him. And there was no rush of emotion, no vision, just a deep, unexpected peace, like setting down something heavy I didn't realize I was still carrying. That yes didn't fix my life. It opened. It didn't answer all my questions. It changed the direction of them. I didn't walk into a spotlight. I stepped through a doorway, and on the other side was a presence that felt steadier than certainty. I want to speak to you if something is stirring right now, and you don't know why. If you can't name it, but you feel it, a soft pull, a gentle unrest, a sense that this moment matters. You don't have to understand it to answer it. You don't have to clean it up or explain it away. This isn't just my memory. This is an invitation. Not loud, not forced, but real. And if your heart is quietly leaning forward, don't step back. Doorways are not dramatic, but they change where you live. Sometimes they are the smallest openings through which the greatest peace enters, changing the rest of the journey forever in ways we only see. Let's take a quiet moment together. Wherever you are, I'm going to whisper this slowly, and if it feels right, you can whisper it with me. Jesus, I am here, just as I am. I'm tired of carrying what I was never meant to hold. I release the years I don't understand, the losses I still feel, the regrets I still replay. I give you my fear. I give you my need to control. I give you the parts of me that feel forgotten. I ask you to come close, not as an idea, but as your presence. Breathe comfort into the places that ache. Breathe forgiveness into the places that feel heavy. Breathe hope into the places that feel finished. I don't offer you my strength. I offer you my heart. Teach me how to rest in you. Teach me how to trust you again. Teach me how to see this season not as an ending, but as an opening. Jesus, I say yes to you. Yes to your nearness. Yes to your leading. Yes to the purpose you are still unfolding. I pause here. I breathe. I let your peace settle. Many people feel something shift in moments. I want to leave you with something very simple, not heavy, not overwhelming, just two small invitations. The first is for today. Before this day ends, choose one quiet moment, just one. Sit somewhere familiar, a chair, the edge of your bed, a kitchen table, and either write a few honest lines to Jesus or speak them out loud. They don't have to be beautiful. They just have to be true. You might say, I'm here. You might say, I'm tired. You might say, I don't know what I need. Let that be enough. Sometimes the holiest thing we do is stop running and let God meet us where we actually are. The second is for this week. Set aside one intentional space for Him. Maybe it's joining a prayer time at church. Maybe it's calling someone you trust and sharing a small piece of your story. Maybe it's choosing one morning or evening to sit with God before anything else, not to perform, to be present. This is not about intensity, it's about consistency. Small steps shape deep places. If you feel led, write in the comments which step you're choosing. Sometimes naming it gently helps us honor it. Thank you for staying with me through this quiet conversation. I don't take your time lightly, and I don't take your courage lightly either. It takes something real to sit with your own heart. especially at this stage of life when memories are close and the world moves fast around us. I'm grateful you're here. If you feel comfortable, write your age and where you're watching from in the comments. Not for statistics, but so we can find each other, pray for one another, and remember we are not walking this road alone. If this space has felt gentle or helpful, you're welcome to subscribe and stay. I want this channel to be a place you can return to when nights feel long, when questions rise, when you need a reminder that God still sees you. Before we part, I want to say a simple blessing over you. May the peace of Jesus rest on your mind. May his comfort steady your heart. May his voice grow clearer than your fears. And may you discover that your life is not winding down, but opening deeper. Walking with Jesus did not shrink my life. It gave it back to me again.